So here we go. I'm going to plug in, and I'm deliberately choosing a different port actually, just to sort of stir the pot a little bit. I don't know if you heard that. I disconnected my mouse, and now I'm connecting the USB serial adapter. And there's that usual sound, boop, boop, boop. So that means we have a good working USB adapter. Hey, Blake here. This is part 3 of my Stellarium mount control video. Still with me? So in the second video, I talked about the ASCOM INDI environment for device independent control of mounts. That may be an optional step for some people. You've maybe jumped in from video part 1 directly to this one if you've determined or believe that ASCOM or INDI is not needed for your solution. And for some people that's the case. If you have a modern mount that's recognized or listed inside the Stellarium device models, then in theory you've got direct support. And if you've got your data cable, you might be pretty well near ready to go. So we're going to focus now on the data connection. I'm going to emphasize a wired connection. Some people might be trying to do a wireless solution. I don't have a lot of direct experience with that, but in theory, you have a transmitter, you have a receiver, and they're going to talk to each other by some means, Bluetooth or some other method. And I'm assuming you have the wherewithal, the skills to make sure that that's working, the devices are communicating properly. But in theory, what that's doing is giving you a virtual cable. I've seen it in action. I've seen people use it, so I know it's possible, but I don't have any specific hands-on experience with that. If I can find some stuff, I might do a little video just on that bit. But I'll show in particular, if you've got a cable, some of the issues that may crop up with that. Let's get going here. It's very common that with a telescope mount and the hand controller that you get a data cable that looks like the one pictured. That's a little bit blurry, sorry. But you can see on this end, we have a registered jack, an RJ jack, and that plugs into a hand controller typically on the bottom or the edge of it, or into the mount proper into one of the ports. And the other end here is an old computer style connector. That's a D shell shaped connector. It's a 9-pin connector. It's called a DB9. That one is the female gender connector, and that's a serial port or a communication port that's used on old computers, PC, DOS, or Windows computers. But those ports are very rare now. New computers, laptops, Mac computers don't have these kinds of connectors. So that usually forces our hand. If you've got that cable, you keep it, you're going to use it, but you're going to need to adapt it. You're going to have to connect something to that DB9 connector to provide a common port that is a USB port. So in the end, what you need is a USB serial adapter to do all of this. Now there's lots, and they're made by different manufacturers, and they have different chipsets inside them. If you don't have one and you're buying one, I would recommend that you have a good money back guarantee, because you're going to need to test it with your mount and your computer, and they may not be compatible. So you might have to send it back and try a different one. I've used prolific based USB serial adapters in a bunch of different scenarios, and I've had good success. And I know some people don't like them. Some people swear by that FTDI. So I think it's one of those, your mileage may vary, and try one and make sure that it's working right. And how do you do that? That by itself is sort of tricky. I used to test serial cables with a modem. I would send commands into the modem, and I knew what the responses would be, and I could test cables that way. So that's kind of rare, that people would be able to do that sort of thing. But that's sort of broad strokes there, what you'll need to do. So get a compatible USB serial adapter. If it works, it works. And you might need drivers for that. The USB serial adapter that I have, I'll just show you it here. This is a basic units from Staples. There's the USB connector, and there's the 9-pin male serial connector there. So this one works fine with Windows 10, and I didn't need any drivers. But you might need drivers, so you may have to go to the manufacturer website and get some software, and then download that to your computer, install it. And usually when you have drivers for USB devices, you install the software first before the device is connected. Then you connect the device, and it should be properly recognized. So both for everything, for Windows, Mac, Linux, you may need a driver for this to work properly. Again, I'm sorry I don't have a lot of experience with Wi-Fi connections, but I've seen them working. I've seen a neat solution with a Bluetooth connector or transducer, so that's sort of neat. And certainly I've used wireless communications with my netbook and laptop and stuff like that, but not specifically with Stellarium to my mount. I'll just show you my data cable that came with the IDEA GoToStar system. So there's the 9-pin serial connector, old style connector. There's the registered jack. It's like the small phone jack style for a handset, if you still have a classic phone. And I'm gonna connect these two devices together like so. So now I have a USB cable coming from the mount. Okay. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm gonna connect this now to the mount hand controller. I love this hand controller. There's the GoToStar hand controller with this huge display. It's tremendous. It's really good. It blows the doors off of most hand controllers, even though this is sort of really old technology. It works really well. You can see on the back here, I've got the curly connection for the motor control and the mount control. But I'm going to plug in my registered jack now to the other port on the hand controller. That's the data connection. So I've done that bit. Now I'm physically connected to the hand controller. In some cases, you'll be plugging into the appropriate connector on your mount there. So let me just hang this up, make sure it doesn't fall down. What I'm going to do here, let's listen carefully for the sound for this. But now I'm going to plug in this USB serial adapter to my Windows laptop, and let's sort of listen and see sort of what happens here. So here we go. I'm going to plug in, and I'm deliberately choosing a different port actually, just to sort of stir the pot a little bit. I don't know if you heard that. I disconnected my mouse, and now I'm connecting the USB serial adapter, and there's that usual sound, boop boop boop. So that means we have a good working USB adapter. And sometimes you'll see notifications pop up on your screen somewhere. And I can't show you this, but this USB adapter has got a little LED. That's kind of rare. This has got a green LED indicating that it's functioning, I guess. And it's got other LEDs. Looks like it'll show when it's transmitting and so on. So I've physically connected now the hand controller to the computer. I needed a USB adapter for that to work. It's based on Prolific. It's compatible with Windows 10, no driver needed. So I'm kind of lucky. Not too many hops there. Again, you might use a Wi-Fi connection. and you'll need to make sure that the wireless dongle thing that's at the telescope is properly communicating and transmitting, and you're not too far away and there's no interference. And your computer either directly will talk to that dongle, or there'll be another dongle in your computer that's talking to that device, and you'll have to do whatever you need to do with that Wi-Fi equipment to establish a good connection, log in, establish credentials, and there's probably diagnostics to test the connections, verify signal strength and quality of data transmission and stuff like that. But hopefully you're able to sort of sort that out and get the devices directly physically connected, or connected by Wi-Fi. This screen that I'm showing you here is just one example, but it shows you that if you're on the Mac platform and you had a Prolific based USB adapter and it wasn't recognized right away, well, you head off to the Prolific website on prolific.com.tw and search through the support areas for the appropriate environment. And here we are on Mac OS 10, and there's a whole bunch of driver information here on this page, but I'm just showing the first one, that we have an OS 10 Universal Binary Driver version 2, and it supports High Sierra, El Capitan, and so on. So we obviously we follow those instructions. We download that, we install that, or unpackage that, we install it on our Mac OS, and then we connect our USB device, and we should see that it's working properly at that stage. So again, there might be driver issues, and I'm just showing one example, the Prolific drivers for the Mac OS that some people may need. On the Windows environment, when you connect a USB serial device, it is assigned a communication port number, or a COM number. And COM numbers can range from 1 to 16. So I want to show you how to look up or to determine this information. And on the Windows platform, the number may change. So from session to session, each time you connect your devices, if you have a non-permanent setup, or the sequence in which you connect all your USB devices may be different, and that might impact COM port assignments. So you need to know where to find this and maybe look it up quickly to determine if it's the same or if it changed. So here's what you do. I'm on Windows 10, so the process here is pretty straightforward. I'm heading to my start button in Windows 10, and you can right click on it, and that actually brings up a special shortcut menu. Lots of great stuff in here, but there's Device Manager. So that's a super duper fast way to get into that. So I'm going to open that up. Takes a few seconds to analyze all the equipment, take inventory. If you're on a different version of Windows, an older one, you can open up, say, Windows Explorer, or the My Computer view, right click on the computer or the My Computer or My PC, open up the properties, and then you'll see the Device Manager is available there. So there's different ways to get to it depending on the exact version of your Windows. You could also do a search in your Windows menu. Maybe that's a way to find it as well. But you can see on my Windows 10 now, I've got my Device Manager list. All the devices are alphabetically arranged here, and I'm looking for ports. There it is. There's COM and LPT, communication and line printer ports, that are shown here. And there it is. There's the Prolific USB serial adapter that's been recognized on the computer. And I can see it's been given the address COM6. So I need to memorize that, or jot it down, or write it down somewhere, and use that later on when I'm configuring the software inside Stellarium. Or if I'm configuring my ASCOM or my Indie device, I'll have to refer to COM ports. Somewhere along the way, I'm going to need that piece of information. So that's important to know. Know how to access the Device Manager at a moment's notice. and check what the COM port assignment is for your USB serial adapter. And my experience on the Windows environment is that it can kind of change on you from sort of day to day or month to month. So don't assume it's the same. Or if you're going through your connections and you don't get a connection, it worked fine the last time you worked on the telescope, just assume that, oh, it must be a COM port change. Look there first. That's one of the first things to do in troubleshooting. What about on the Mac environment? You can actually issue, in Mac or in Linux, you can issue a command to search for the devices. So you can look up what the assignment is. But I think actually, in general, you don't need to do this, because I think when you're in Stellarium, if you just look for your USB serial device, it will be really obvious. And I'll talk about that later when we're configuring the mount. So this is just maybe an FYI that if you get to the terminal screen and you type in an ls command for list, and then you list devices, if you do ls/dev/star, you're going to get lots of devices, maybe way more than you're looking for. But what you really want are the call up devices. So you can see the circled command there is ls for list, /dev for devices, /cu for the call up communication devices, .star. And you can see in the example below, it's listed a modem, it's listed a Bluetooth device, and so on. But there it is, there's a USB serial device there, and it's got this weird, nasty code after it. Who cares what that is? But you've now isolated that specific port. But again, I don't think you need to do this on the Mac. The device will get assigned, the USB device will get assigned a port designation when you connect it to a Mac or a Linux machine, but you'll see it when you're in Stellarium. It will just simply be there. So this is just sort of fun to look them up. I wanted to talk a little bit about extension. If we're going USB, then you need to keep in mind the normal maximum ratings for the length of USB lines, that the maximum normal length for a USB cable is 5 meters or 16 feet. That might not be enough. The whole point of this is you might be trying to sit inside and leave your telescope outside when it's really cold, and you want to operate the telescope in your jammies, having a hot chocolate while the telescope's maybe, across the lawn kind of thing. But your USB cable may not be long enough. Now, you can't just hook a whole bunch together. You'll get interference or dropout from that. So if you do want to make a USB cable longer, you have to power it. So you can get powered extensions, or you can use powered hubs and daisy chain them together to maybe get the length that you want. But that might be problematic. You would have to test that, make sure you're not getting interference or communication problems. I actually have the product that's issued on the right. It's this dongle with a USB connector and another dongle with a USB plug, and it doesn't show that there's a powered adapter needed for that. So there's another piece to this. It's a powered connection again. And I don't know if you can make it out, but right there is an Ethernet jack. So between the dongles, you hook up an Ethernet cable. And if you're using normal twisted pair Ethernet cable, the maximum length to those, the maximum rating is 100 meters. So that's pretty significant. You can now probably easily reach your telescope with one of these. I've had great success with mine. It works very well. You can get USB 2, USB 3 versions, and so on. They're not terribly expensive. And then you just need an Ethernet cable. You should get a good high quality Ethernet line, like Cat 5e or Cat 6. to reduce interference. You want good twisted pairs inside that cable. So that's probably the longest solution. Some people I've talked to have had problems with these. So once again, you might have to try one. If it doesn't work, send it back and get one from a different manufacturer. And if I may be so bold, don't go cheap. Buy good quality cables, good quality adapters or powered hubs, and so on to eliminate communication problems. Now here's a funny thing. My connection between my mount, you can see the wire there a little bit, the bit from the hand controller to the old serial port is, I don't know, it's a meter or two long, and then that was a short little USB thing, just a foot long, not very long. So lots of people go, oh, I need to extend this, and they get a USB extension. But think about extending the serial part of the connection. Extend the serial leg, because serial cables can be 15 meters long. They can be much longer than USB cables. So that's sort of funny. A lot of people don't think about extending that part. Now that said, if you walked into your local computer store, they probably don't have long serial cables anymore. They're kind of rare, but you should be able to buy one of those online. There's communication restrictions there. Bluetooth maximum distance between the two devices is 10 meters, assuming no obstructions, line of sight, things like that. No walls, no metal, no reflectors. So lots of issues here when you're extending. I prefer to go hard line for best quality. And again, I found that a USB Ethernet connection works really well. So I just wanted to focus on the connection here part, and I'm showing obviously a physical connection, but now I have my mount connected to the computer, and I showed you that my USB device was recognized. It was given a COM port number in Windows. So I'm ready to go. They're attached to each other now. So that's another step in the journey here. So just to wrap up, we focused on the data connection. I've been talking about wires and cables. You may need a USB serial adapter. You might need a driver for that. If you're trying to do this by Wi-Fi, watch out for your distances and again, interference. And I'm assuming you know what to do to ensure that the wireless connection is working properly. And if you need to extend things, then be aware of the maximum restrictions or maximum recommended lengths for the different types of cables. And choose something that's sort of relevant or appropriate given the distance, how far away that you're trying to go. I do have cautions and warnings later about all of that. Again, the spirit of this, that a lot of people want to do remote telescope control. Telescopes outside, you're in the house. But there's some issues. We'll talk about those later in one of our later videos. So thanks for watching. Part 4 now is how to prepare your Stellarium to use it in conjunction with mount control. So I'll see you on the flip.